Relations with Russia seem dangerously tense. The confrontation over chemical weapons in Syria, just the latest sore point, and it seems inevitable there will be many more. Next month, Vladimir Putin will be sworn in for a new 6-year term as president. So what should the West expect from him going forward, and what should the response be? Our Russia correspondent, Chris Brown, put that question to one of that country's foremost opposition figures, Vladimir Milov. The 46-year-old politician was once a member of Putin's government, but later threw his support behind his nemesis, anti-corruption crusader Alexei Navalny. Chris spoke to Vladimir Milov in Moscow this week for our latest dispatch.
How would you describe Russia's place in the world today under Vladimir Putin?
Isolation. Russia keeps getting more and more isolated. This is something unprecedented, even for me as a person who remembers the Soviet times, because yes, there was a standoff with the West, but we had Helsinki Accords, we had summits, and we had dialogue and so on. Right now, Russia is being pushed on the sidelines, less than 2% of global GDP. It's quite clear that the gap in development, in innovation grows between us and the developed world. There is no perspective of improving relations with the civilized world for years to come if Putin stays in power. We are just a small player on the global economic scale, so that is very frustrating.
How do you think Russians see this dynamic that you've just described to me?
I think it is being hidden from the majority of the population, because more than 90% of Russians get their information from the television, and that is completely state-controlled. And there they propagate the idea that we have been achieving one geopolitical victory after another, so we are successful on TV. But they are being brainwashed daily on the television, and you actually need to somehow push through this.
I'm curious, do you personally believe that Russia is to blame for all of this, for this isolation, or do you think the West is to blame for it?
I'm kind of biased, you know, because I've been observing this thing from a close range. I'm a former bureaucrat. I attended the 2002 G8 summit in Canada as part of the official Russian delegation, which was the first official summit when Russia was participating as a full-fledged member of the G8. I personally remember the enthusiasm with which we were greeted there. And people from the biggest developed countries, the officials, the ministers were saying, look, welcome in. We're glad you're here to participate in the solution of global problems. And I saw how step by step, basically, it was Putin's actions that put the cracks in the pavement of our relations with the United States, with the European Union. There was one conflict after the other.
What do you think Putin's goals are for the next 6 years?
To maintain the grip of control, and actually increasing the control of strategic commanding heights in the economy, continuing to penetrate in Russia's neighborhood. I think if you are to name just one reason why relations are so bad between Russia and the West now, it's because of Russia's fixation on total dominance over the post-Soviet neighborhood. Primarily Ukraine, because that's a jewel in the crown. If you do not control Ukraine, you do not control post-Soviet space. So strengthening the grip of control, increasing his international penetration and dominance over areas which he thinks are his, that will be 6, 12, however more years we will have this gentleman in power.
What is the time frame, do you think, before, you know, liberals, people who are not like Putin, get a chance to do something?
Now look, as I know history of Russia very well, and we actually have a habit of maintaining this quasi-stability for many, many years, and then bang, something happens because of the inefficiencies accumulated. But I think if you talk to many people, some of them not really engaged in politics, a lot will tell you that, you know, something is building up. This situation cannot linger. It will explode at some point. This is why I do not believe that Putin will have to maintain the grip on power forever. And I believe that actions of those who disagree can make a difference. We saw that last year during Navalny anti-corruption protests, which were, I would say, unprecedented in scale since 1991. But the scale was still not enough to turn things around, so we need to work on the capacity. But important thing is component is whether the Russian society wakes up.